Now to an ABC News investigation into the mission back to the moon. NASA's Artemis II is set to send astronauts around the moon for the first time in more than 50 years. But now, two former scientists at the space agency are sounding the alarm. Elizabeth Schulze has an in-depth look in tonight's Prime Focus.
Ignition, engine's full power, and liftoff. Go.
Space exploration is inherently risky. On that, nearly everyone agrees. But for the upcoming Artemis II mission, the first people to travel to the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972,
I've never put a flag up in the moon before.
There's disagreement about whether the risk is worth taking.
In your view right now, is it safe for astronauts, humans, to go on this mission on Artemis II?
I would say no.
The Artemis II mission could launch as soon as next month.
The real stars of the show here, the Artemis II crew.
With 4 crew members, 3 Americans and a Canadian, set to complete the 10-day journey in the Orion spacecraft, more than 600,000 miles to the moon and back. But 2 veteran NASA scientists now tell ABC News they believe there are serious safety risks with the spacecraft.
I hope the mission is successful, but if there's another disaster like Challenger or Columbia, that's going to set us back years.
Daniel Rasky retired in December after working as an engineer specializing in thermal heat systems at NASA for more than 30 years. Charlie Camarda is a former director of engineering at NASA with decades of research experience and a retired astronaut who flew on the space shuttle.
Is this what you both expected to be doing, speaking out about in retirement?
No.
Their key concern centers on the Orion spacecraft's heat shield, a system designed to protect astronauts from the extreme heat when they re-enter the atmosphere. They say the heat shield uses a material from the 1960s that cracked during the uncrewed Artemis I test flight in 2022, a finding highlighted in a 2024 publicly released report by NASA's Inspector General that was reviewed by Rasky.
I have to say, from the data I've seen with regard to this heat shield, if I had to rate it A, B, C, D, I'd rate it an F.
You'd rate it an F?
It's an F. It's a clear F. Clear. And there's no way you put crew on an F heat shield. You are just tempting fate.
Why does it matter if there are cracks in a heat shield?
Pieces of heat shield coming off mean that you're close to complete failure. You're at the edge of a cliff on a foggy day, and you don't know which way to move. You might go off the cliffs. In fact, actually, one argument NASA made after Artemis I was the vehicle survived. Okay, you didn't quite go off the cliff this time, but you're close.
You're both worried they could go off the cliff.
Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to fail. It means you're right on the edge of this cliff, and you don't know which way to move that could lead to catastrophic development.
Rasky says there are better options available for the heat shield. He points to the material SpaceX uses on its Dragon spacecraft as far superior to the 6 decades-old technology being used for Artemis II.
Why would you do this? Why would you use a very old technology when there's much better options available now?
Welcome to our briefing today.
During a pre-launch press conference this month, NASA acknowledged that the Artemis II heat shield has what they called limitations.
We understand the limitations of the heat shield on Artemis II, and it's incumbent upon us to fly within those limitations.
We asked the man in charge of the spacecraft, Howard Hugh, about the engineers' concerns.
Crew safety is paramount, and our ability to fly our crew safely and ensure their mission success is what we do every day. And I think about it every night, every day, every waking hour.
Hugh told us that NASA conducted an 18-month investigation on the heat shield and identified the root cause of the problem. He said NASA then changed Orion's return course so the astronauts spend less time in high heat zones.
As part of that investigation, they were able to determine that there was limitations that we could take on this current heat shield on Artemis II that would be safe.
In a statement to ABC News, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman added, "After a thorough, independent, and data-driven review, I have full confidence in Orion's heat shield and in the team behind it. NASA engineers and safety experts followed the evidence, challenged every assumption, and applied disciplined engineering judgment to understand the anomaly and mitigate remaining risk." Camarda says he raised his concerns about the risks of the revised re-entry plan, including the heat shield, directly with the NASA administrator earlier this month at a meeting.
What was your reaction to that meeting?
Shock, a little bit of rage, because it wasn't just the same behaviors. These were the same people that were making the same bad predictions during Columbia and after Columbia.
Former astronaut and engineer Danny Olivas was also in that meeting.
What I will say is that I came in as a skeptic, and that's kind of my very nature is like, you got to prove it to me.
But after the meeting, he posted on social media, NASA had a very difficult problem to solve, but I'm pleased to share that the team did an outstanding job of working the problem. We asked Olivas, who's a NASA Advisory Council member and volunteered to be an independent technical reviewer for the heat shield, what changed his mind about its safety.
After reviewing the data, I became convinced that the team had done their due diligence. And while it's not without risk, they have done a lot to mitigate that risk.
As a skeptic, you're convinced enough for this mission to move forward.
I am confident in the heat shield today. If you ask me, at the beginning of this program, would I fly on Orion? I would have said no for the reasons that I was skeptical. But as I sit here today, the answer is yes. And my input to the crew is have a good flight.
Would you have these same concerns regardless of what the administration was? Is this a Democratic or a Republican issue?
No. NASA's been degrading for over 40 years. It's not political. This is a bipartisan mess up.
Camarda says that for years and across different administrations, he's been pushing back on a culture at the space agency that he says stifles disagreement and dissent.
Right now, we have a psychologically unsafe culture at NASA where people are afraid to speak up. When I recognized and I told people that, hey, there's a problem with this analysis. It can't predict failure. It's not physics-based. No one said a word. There was silence.
Hugh, who spent more than 3 decades at NASA, disagrees.
This is one thing I love about NASA. We speak the truth. When I say we speak truth, it's backed by data. And when people speak up, we bring forward our concerns. They're listened to. That is what people expect. That is the culture we live in.
The engineers told us they don't want to see a tragedy like we saw with Columbia or Challenger. Can NASA confidently say it's done everything in its power at this point, given those risks, to avoid a tragedy like that?
We confidently would say that. I think to a person that was part of the investigation, the technical team, I would say, would definitely say that.
For Rasky and Camarda, they say their goal is not to stop the Artemis II mission altogether, but to do it without putting a crew at risk. They suggest sending robots in place of human astronauts.
Why risk crew on this mission? You could fly robotic crew and get all the information that they need.
They have made a significant amount of progress.
Olivas told us that humans are essential because they provide unique interactions you can't get from robots. These 2 engineers say their personal mission is to course correct the culture at NASA, focusing more on research and development, encouraging open conversations, and creating an environment that can win the next 50 years of the space race.
They absolutely don't need to listen to us. They don't have to listen to us. But the path that we're currently on with the Artemis program is not a good path. We should never have come to this point.
If you were not ready, you would not go.
If we're not ready, there is no way. I will be the first person to stand up and say we are not ready to go. And I won't be the only one.
I lost 3 classmates, 7 friends on Columbia. And so, I get very emotional. I understand we take risks, but we don't have to take unnecessary risks. And I'm praying for the crew because I don't want to see that happen.
Our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze for that report.